All right. Good morning. How you all doing? This wonderful 26th day of March 2024, 2025. Hope you're well. We're really glad that you could join us. For the sake of guys who are joining us here, Karibuni Sana. We do this every Monday to Friday, so feel free to join us at the same time. We give analysis free of charge, so feel free to join us here. And also remember to like and subscribe. Also feel free to turn on the bell notification, so at least you will be notified anytime we do go live. So John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so we also do have the rest of the team here, even if you can't see them. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat box. The team will be getting back to you, but I will also be looking at those questions towards the very tail end of this session. But like we always say, you don't really need to wait until the very end. You still can ask even as we do progress on. So we're going to jump straight into it. We'll start off by looking at the watch list. That's where everything begins. So you can see the watch list right there for today. So it's pretty much copy and paste. So third day running in terms of the currency pairs. The only change that we do have is on the NAS 100, which has finally joined the buy side of things. It's been a bit problematic in terms of getting the sells, but let's see how the buys do end up going. So that's pretty much the only change that we do have. So that being the case, we're going to start off by looking at a couple of screenshots that we did get, because we'll end up doing the reviews as we look at today's currency pairs. So let's start off by looking at this screenshot from Alvin. So shout out to you, Alvin. So this is on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see you got some selling opportunities. I guess somewhere within this region here. You're saying offside. Guess you're caught offside over here. So I guess the sales didn't really work out from within there. And I can see that you had some attempts high up within this region here. Quite a lot of activity. Hopefully you weren't fighting with the markets. But it does seem like you got sell somewhere here. Stop loss was a bit tight. You ended up getting caught out. Market came down somewhere within this region as well. I think you attempted a buy, but you also ended up getting caught out. Sometimes it does happen, but one thing I will say is that it's always good to remain objective on the charts, and hopefully you watch out for your risk, so that there's a very thin line between fighting with the markets and actually taking opportunities objectively when you do end up seeing them. It's always good to give the market enough time to reset itself before you jump back in. But hopefully you weren't fighting with the markets, and hopefully you stuck within your risk parameters. But nonetheless, it's the nature of trading. So keep pushing, but also just make sure that you don't really fight with the markets. But shout out to you for that, Alvin. Maybe yesterday wasn't the best of days for you, but hopefully today is going to be a beautiful day. So let's see what good opportunities we can get, and hopefully you can get. So shout out to you for that. So we also did get a screenshot from Metrin. This is on the NAS 100. So I can see that you got some buying opportunities on this one. Couple of buying opportunities within there. And as the market was moving high up in your favor, I can see that your stop losses are high above within this region right here. This is really good. Good to see you got a handful of trades within there. But of course, the market being high up within there, maybe the stop loss might be a bit too tight. Maybe it needs to be just slightly lower than this, because the market could easily come back in within this region. Seems to be in some sort of an upward trend. So could easily tap back in within this region for some sort of a retest. But nonetheless, in terms of where you got the buys, very, very good attempts. And of course, even in terms of money management, shout out to you for that as well. So last but not least, we did get a screenshot from Peter. So this is on the euro against the Australian dollar. So I can see that you got a sell on this one somewhere within here, especially if you got it on the pullback when the market tapped back in within there. That was really good. If that's where you got it, then of course I can see that as the market came down in your favor, stop loss already below your point of entry, although could be a bit higher, just in case the market just taps back in within this region for some sort of a retest. Because also this one looks like it's in some sort of a trend. You can see that every time it breaks to the downside, comes back in. So there's a possibility maybe price could have come back in within there. But I can't see that you're targeting all the way down within this region down here, which is also perfectly fine. So shout out to you for that, Peter. And of course, keep up the good work. So shout out to Alvin, Metrin, Peter, for the good work. And of course, keep on pushing, keep fighting. Remember, guys, if we do get any trades, whether good or bad, feel free to send them in to us. Contact details are definitely there in the video description. Like we always say, we don't Shame. We just give you the best advice. Even if we do see something wrong, we won't reprimand you for it. We'll just give you the advice that you need to make your trading that much better. So feel free to send in your screenshots via WhatsApp. Our contact details are right there in the video description. So I guess we can jump into matters today. So for the sake of guys who are just joining us, like I pointed out, the watch list is the same. So we're going to do the reviews as we continue moving along. In terms of the fundamentals today, there's going to be quite a handful. So we'll be expecting these CPIs for the GBP that are going to be coming out at 10, which is at the top of the hour. So we'll see what happens. But of course, we should be expecting some moves. You know, CPIs always bring in quite a lot of volatility. So we'll be waiting to see what happens. And you can see that during the US session, there will be some USD news events, some with 3 stars. So I guess it's also going to be a bit volatile for that. But at least volatility is what we always want. So let's hope the markets do actually end up making a move. So we're going to start off with the card pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the sell side, then move on to the USD pairs, then we'll finish off with the indices and the commodities. So the first one off the line, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells, and you can see the 3 areas that Mitch had pointed out, similar levels as today, because the market hasn't really moved far and beyond. But you can see that yesterday morning, price was somewhere within this region right here. So we're expecting either a breach to the downside, or maybe the market bouncing off this region to the upside, coming back in within there before getting the selling opportunity to come down. So you can see that at 11, which was during the London market open, price was within a support region. Then at 4:30, which is during the US session, the market was at least back within a seller's region. And you can see that the selling opportunity worked out during the US session. So in terms of the daily trades that we look out for, remember that we're also session traders, because we're also trying to trade with a particular session. So this is a good example. You know, the trades or the sell didn't come in during the London session, but you just needed to wait for the US session, and you can see that the opportunity did actually end up showing up. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same. Price is coming up. You can see that the London big boys took it up. The US big boys brought it down. The Asian big boys are bringing it back up within here. Let's see if the London big boys will be interested to possibly push the price back down again, or maybe the US big boys. Watch out for this level here, but also watch out for the level higher than that. This is going to be the last area where we will be watching out to see whether we can get our aggressive sells. So in case the market needs better prices, it might need to tap in somewhere within there before coming down. But structure-wise, you can see that we're in a range. So that tells us that the best selling opportunities are definitely somewhere within this region here. So watch out for that. Watch out for the red SNR at the top. In case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, unfortunately, there will be no trade for us unless the market comes back into the downside of that red SNR. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the 3 areas right there that had been pointed out. So in the morning, price was here within a support region. The London big boys attempted to go up, but it's just that it seems that they couldn't get enough momentum to push the market to the upside. The market came back in, and you can see that much later on during the US session, the market started its journey moving to the upside, and you can see that during the Asian session, the Asian big boys are attempting to continue keeping that momentum alive. So for this one, for today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. The market seems like it's broken a region high up within here. This is the semi-aggressive conservative region. But like we always say, we need to see the break and the hold. So right now the market has broken. There's a possibility we could be expecting a slight pullback to come in, at least if we do see the sellers attempting to break this region to the downside, but we still do see the buyers coming up and pushing the market to the upside, and we get that hold. If you watch out for the times, hopefully that happens maybe during the US session or maybe during the London session. I'm thinking maybe it might need the London session to do all this, but let's wait and see. Maybe it could happen fast enough. But if it does, and at least we do get the hold, but we also need to see the sign of the big boys, you know, pushing the market to the upside, especially if the market comes back in within here, because this is where we do have the buyers who are currently pushing the market to the upside sitting. So if we get them showing their aggression and the market holds to the upside, I think we could actually end up getting a buy, and we could lift, and we could see price coming back all the way till within here. This seems like a level that's hanging in the middle of nowhere on the 15-minute time frame. But if we do go up the 1 hour time frame, you can see that there's a region of sellers, somewhere within there, and most probably that's where the market could be heading. So that's the reason why we have that area right there. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. Definitely could be a good area to target. So watch out for that. Watch out for the red SNR at the bottom. If the market pulls back, then at least that's going to be the last area where we will be attempting aggressive buying opportunities. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some sells. Can't see the 3 areas Mitch had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. The market did seem to probe to the upside like he had expected or anticipated, but unfortunately the pullback just didn't happen. It just went up, came down, and you can see that the market came down all the way till within this region right here. So right now, in terms of looking for selling opportunities might not be the best of ideas. So we'll be waiting to either see if we can get a pullback happening, because there's a possibility we can't get a pullback. The market is within a buyer's region. Hopefully, if the London big boys can give us a pullback, there's a possibility we could get price back in within here. And during the US session, potentially maybe at 4:30, if the market pulls back and it's back within here, we could get a sell happening. So that's one scenario. The other scenario will be if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside and we get that pullback happening. Also watching out for the times, we could get a good selling opportunity within there. So we'll just need to wait and see what happens. In terms of looking for the sells, the reason why I'm saying it's not a good idea is because there are buyers within here. You don't know well, or you're not quite sure how the buyers within that particular region might actually end up reacting. So just be a bit patient. Let's see what happens. Patience is key when it comes to trading. If you end up being impatient, unfortunately, most of the time you will be giving away money. So patience is key. In fact, trading is the one thing that you actually end up getting paid for waiting, unlike other things. So here, patience, you really need to work on your patience if you have FOMO. So moving on into the next one, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So these are the 3 areas that had been pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting a pullback to come back in within here. And unfortunately, the pullback couldn't come in, which tells us that the euros were pretty much weak. So you can see that price came down, bounced off within this region, then eventually broke to the downside. And once it's broken to the downside, the reason why we still do have the levels the same is because we're expecting, hopefully we will get a pullback coming back in within this region here. And at least if that ends up being the case, I think there could be some very good selling opportunities within here. Down within this area right here, I mean, if the market pulls back, this could be the area where you could be targeting. But one thing you need to remember is, and the reason why we haven't quite adjusted the levels quite yet is because we're more or less trying to break free of this buyer's region right here. So we're expecting maybe a pullback to come back in within this region. And at least if we do get a sign of the big sellers showing up within this region, I think the market might continue to come down. And you can see that at least the market has been in some sort of a downward channel. Let's try to get into some sort of a downward trend. So let's see if these buyers can actually let the sellers actually go. But at least we'll have to definitely end up waiting for the pullback. So also watch out for these regions right here. Same areas as we had yesterday. You could also find a real shocker, especially considering the fact that we're down within a region where we do have buyers. You could easily find the market actually reacting off this region quite aggressively. And that does happen sometimes, especially considering the fact that the market has been coming down. Many people are looking at this as some sort of sells. Definitely down within here, many people are actually not aware where we are. They don't know that we're down within some area where we do have some buyers. The buyers pull in a real shocker. All the late sellers get stopped out. The market comes back within this region right here aggressively. If it does hold, you could find price coming back in within here or somewhere within this region here. And of course, considering the fact that this is a region that wasn't quite retested, there's still a possibility we could get price coming back in, within this area right here. And you could find that maybe at around 4:30, that's when the proper sell might actually end up happening. So also have that at the back of your mind. But definitely, regardless, one thing we definitely need to see is the pullback, either the aggressive pullback or the the slow pullback that's going to be coming in before we time any selling opportunities. So make sure that you watch out for that. But like I pointed out, patience is definitely key. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting the market to calm down. During the London session, there was an attempt, although you can see that this was actually during the Frankfurt session. So price attempted to calm down, bounced up here. During the London session, it was somewhere within here, so close within that region, pushed to the upside. Can see that the market came back in, held within here. Then during the US session, much later on, the market did actually end up coming to the downside. Could have been a bit tricky to end up grabbing that selling opportunity. The opportunity wasn't very clear. All we can see is that price went back in and pushed back within a region where we did have some sellers. The sellers took their time before they actually did end up showing up, but you can see that they did come in with aggression, coming down within this region here. During the Asian session, we do have the pullback coming in, but also the pullback is coming in quite aggressive. So for this one, let's see what happens. If we could get these sellers who reacted within here to react and actually push the market to the downside, I think we could potentially look for sells within here, but we'll need to be patient. But right now, since the buyers are doing their thing, let's see if they can actually take out these sellers. If they do, and the market continues to rally up higher, there's a possibility we could get maybe the market coming back in a bit higher. Remember that these levels that we point out, these are not the only levels that are there on the markets. The only reason why we have three is because these are the major levels. There are also quite a number of minor SNRs in between, but at least we know that this is going to be the last area where we will be watching out for sells. So maybe the market might just need to end up spiking up just a bit higher than this. Then maybe the big sellers show up. If you're really good at trading, you could potentially get some selling opportunities within here. But ideally, the best sell, I think, could come in if the market breaks to the downside of this region and actually holds to the downside of this region. So just make sure you watch out for that, but also watch out for the region at the top. I mean, if it does end up going up higher and the sellers do show up much, much higher, then that's also a good thing. In terms of risk to reward, especially if the market gives us more of a discount, we'll have more room to play with to the downside. So let's see if that ends up being the case. So last but not least, for the card pairs, we do have the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday, watching out for buys, same situation today. This one looks similar to the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. For those of you that do have a keen eye, you can see that the market went up, came down. We're expecting the bounce to happen somewhere within here, but the market just went slightly lower. I guess there was a level or a region somewhere here that the big boys did need, but you can see that off this region right here, the market came up, tapped within here. And it does seem like during the Asian session, that's when the market really started to, push to the upside. And of course, looks like there could have been a very good buy within this region here. The only unfortunate thing is that at that point in time, I don't really think that there were any of us on the charts. So for this one, we're still going to be watching out for buys. The levels are the same. The market has gone up. Let's see if we can get the market potentially pushing above this region to the upside on the pullback. If we get the market coming back in within here, and we get something like that, I think we could potentially look for buys. But right now, trying to attempt to push the market with this buy going up, there's high risk on it. You can see that there's some sellers who are sitting within this region here. You're not quite sure whether they will end up getting in your way. So it's better to fast wait, because alternatively, what could happen if they do decide to push the market down, we could get the market pulling back. There are quite a number of levels within this region that are strategic, but of course, the best area and the major level is definitely down within here, and you can potentially find the market coming back in within that region. So just make sure that you watch out for those three areas right there, same three areas we had. But in terms of looking for the buys, let's be a bit patient to fast wait and see what type of reaction we can get off those sellers right there. And if they can't get taken out, then at least we'll try and see whether we can get the buys of the pullback. So that's pretty much it in terms of the Canadian dollar pairs. So right now, we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs, the US dollar pairs, mix and match them up and see what we can get. So we're done with the card pairs. So we're going to start off with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. You can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out, and also an additional area right there. fourth level. So price was here, the pullback came in. Can see that price came down, almost came down back within this region, but there was some sort of a buyer's region here at 11. The London big boys pushed the market to the upside. Price came up, but you can see that during the US session, the sellers really struggled to push the market to the downside. But to some extent, also could be something up with the AUD pairs and the NZD pairs. There's nothing fundamentally to back that up, but generally looking at the rest of the currency pairs, especially the USDs, you will notice that there could have been something up with the AUDs and the NZDs. So for this one, you can see that the sells were not very clear. In as much as you can see that price came down, it did probe, just like Mitch expected, came down, held within here. We did attempt sales within this region here for whatever reason, and at least that could have been a good sell, but unfortunately price just couldn't come back in all the way till within here. But you can definitely see that there was a buyer's region. You know, the buyers who had actually pushed the market to the upside quite aggressively. When the sellers tapped back in within there, you can see that they pushed the market back to the upside. So for this one, the same three areas as we had yesterday, you can also watch out for this level. I mean, there's a possibility price could just tap back in within this region here. It's a level of interest, and you could find that maybe the sales might actually happen off that region there. So watch out for that. But I think the best sales could also come in, especially if the market breaks to the downside of this region and actually holds to the downside, then ideally this could also be a very, very good area to look for some selling opportunities. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the red SNR at the top. I mean, if the market gives a deeper pullback, then at least we should also be ready for that. So moving on into the next one, this is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out in an additional bonus level somewhere within this level area right here. Price was here. We're expecting the breach to the upside. That didn't happen. The market tapped in within there, pulled back in only during the US session. That's when the market did actually give some sort of a buying opportunity. But you can see that the buyers have really struggled, you know, to push the market to the upside. So for this one for today, the levels are the same. So let's watch out for these three areas, which are the same three areas that we had yesterday. Right now, the market is back within some sort of a seller's region. I mean, if you got the buys here, you should be managing your trade. In terms of looking for buys now, might not be the best. Say that the market breaks to the upside, we get the pullback coming in, and at least if we get some sort of a breach of structure, because you can see that the market is also in some sort of a range. So if we get a breach of structure, then at least you could look for the buys. But right now, I think the best buys still remain to be down within this region. So it wouldn't be surprising to see price come down during the London session. And maybe during the US session, that's when the market might be ready to actually end up getting some buying opportunities. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But definitely the best buys are definitely down within there just based on that market structure. So moving on into the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday and today, still watching out for sells. You can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out. So price was here. We're expecting the market to break beneath this region to the downside. That didn't happen. The sellers attempted. Seems like the buyers within this region held them hostage. And you can see that the market did actually push to the upside quite aggressively. Price came back in all the way till within this region, because you can actually see that price tapped back in within this area right here before the sellers attempted to come to the downside, but they're still struggling. So I guess they still need to regroup and get in more, you know, sellers to actually help them with the job. So let's see what happens today. Right now, in terms of where the market is, we're within a buyer's region, in as much as the sellers have really struggled, but there's a possibility the market might actually bounce off this region to the upside. So if that ends up being the case, just be patient, wait and see what happens. And hopefully we do get the market potentially coming back in within here. The sellers might actually regroup within that area, and maybe we could get the market actually coming to the downside quite well. But also remember, in case the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, unfortunately, there will be no trade for us. But also remember that in case the market breaks to the downside of this region and we get to visually see, you know, that the bars are actually struggling to break and hold above this region to the upside, you know, you get pin bars, probes, inside bars within that region, but generally the market still holds to the downside. You could actually attempt a selling opportunity, at least with your stop somewhere within that region, and you could actually get a very, very good sell coming down to within this region. but you'll definitely need to watch out for somewhere within this area. You can see that yesterday, the buyers actually pushed to the upside aggressively off that region. They can't do it again. So as the market comes down, just make sure that you also do watch out for that particular region. So moving on into the next one, this is the euro against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're watching out for sells. You can see that the sales didn't work out until the US session. So price was here in the morning. We're expecting price to pull back in fast. It didn't. It came down, tapped this area. You can see that the buyers reacted. The market went up. During the US session, price was somewhere here. You can see that the market went up, came down, and there was a sign of the big sellers showing up within here. The market tapped back in within this region. And this was during the New York stock exchange session, and you can see that price tapped back in within there before the market started its journey coming down. So if you got this trade, shout out to you, but definitely you should be managing your trade down within this particular region right here, because you can see that the buyers are definitely sitting within there. We're not quite sure how they could react. They could push the market to the upside. So for this one, it's either the market comes back and at least somewhere as close as possible within this region here. And if the buyers can actually push the market back up, that could be good. Maybe we might get into some sort of a range. It's not yet given, considering the fact that there's some highs that are quite high, but it does seem like there could be some sort of an SNR within here. So generally, if the market comes back somewhere as close as possible within this region, it doesn't have to come back in all the way till within there, but there are definitely a bunch of sellers who are sitting somewhere within this area here. So we could find that this price, or somewhere within this region, these prices might actually be good enough. So let's wait and see. Alternatively, if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, then at least on the pullback, then we could attempt to try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So make sure that you watch out for that. But at least if you did get the sales higher up, then that's really good. You just need to make sure that you do manage your trades, and of course move your stop losses lower, even if you could be targeting areas much lower. So moving on into the next currency pair, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out. Remember, I pointed out that the AUDs and the NZDs, if you look at the rest of the USDs, seem to be the ones that were giving a bit or a lot of problems, because you can't see that the euro against the US dollar is at least maintaining down here. But this one and the AUD, you can see that there was this bounce to the upside. And during the Asian session, you can see that the market has really pushed up north. So I guess it's these big boys who came in yesterday. They are not yet quite done. So there's a possibility you could find price coming back in within there. You can't see that yesterday the market tapped in within this region, came up higher, the sellers showed up, but after that, it's like they really struggled, to really push the market to the downside. So for this one, for today, the levels are going to be the same as what we had yesterday. There's a probability we will be seeing price coming back in within this region. It's very close within there. So if the market comes in within here, we see a sign of the big boy sellers showing up, the buyers really start to struggle within that area, I think we could get a very good selling opportunity. Somewhere within there, you will need to manage your trade within that region, even if you will be targeting down here, or maybe even if you will be targeting low. And of course, if the market breaks and goes to the downside of this region and you can visually and clearly see another opportunity, you definitely can end up scaling in, for the guys who are really good at trading. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top. So if in case the market breaks above that region, that being our aggressive area, and holds above that region to the upside, then unfortunately we'll have to end up falling back on our selling opportunities. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out, and also some illustrations of what to expect. So price was here. It was either the market to break to the upside or maybe come back in within this region. So price came back in, but you can't see that there was no sign of the big boys, within this particular region. And price did end up coming in a bit lower, somewhere as close as possible within this region, right? And you can't see that there was some sort of a turnaround within this particular region. You can see that the Asian big boys have actually added more fuel to the fire. So we'll be waiting to see what happens. Of course, if you hadn't gotten the buys earlier, don't really jump in on the buys just yet, because also risk to reward matters. If you jump in on a buy here, the main thing you need to be asking yourself is, where are you going to be putting your stop loss? So you're better off waiting to first see if we can get the market breaking to the upside of this particular region, especially if we get a nice strong breach to the upside, then at least on the pullback, definitely you can jump in on the buy. But also considering the fact that we're coming back in within a region of sellers, you're not quite sure what could happen, but there's a probability we might just get a pullback coming back in within this region. So we just need to be patient to wait and see what does end up happening. So either the pullback back within here, or maybe the breach and the pullback back within this region before we do actually jump in on some buying opportunities. So do watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, but in case the market finds its way there, then at least you should also be ready and on the lookout for that as well. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities. The only change that we do have is the NAS 100 joining the buy side of things, but pretty much everything else does end up remaining. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one yesterday, we're more or less somewhere within this region. And if I do zoom out a bit, you will see that price was somewhere within here. We're just broken above this region to the upside. So it was either price to come back in to the downside. And if we did get a hold, we could have potentially looked for those selling opportunities. But the fact that the market bounced off this region and continued to rally to the upside, that's the reason why we've switched it up. We're definitely going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities on this one, because it's confirmed now that we're definitely in buyers. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So also shout out to Metrin for getting those buys and well managed on them as well. So keep up the good work. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. For as long as we're holding above this region to the upside, we should be looking for those buying opportunities. There's a probability price could be coming back in somewhere within this region right here. If that ends up being the case, we could potentially get some very good buys to lift to the upside. So watch out for that. But in case the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, I think we could also get some very good conservative buying opportunities, especially if we can't get a proper pullback and the sellers are non-committal and they're nowhere to be seen. So just make sure that you watch out for that. The reason why we have that red SNR all the way down within that region is because it seems like this move going to the upside seems like one big move. From somewhere within here, it goes here, and definitely maybe we could get the pullback coming back in within this region before the market pushes itself off this region to the upside. The NAS 100 has been a bit problematic the last couple of days. It's been in some very weird state, some sort of an upward channel, but still within a seller's zone. Right now, the market or the buyers have actually taken out the sellers. Let's see if we continue that progression, or maybe are we going to get into some sort of an upward trend? Maybe that was some sort of a turnaround. The channel at the bottom could have been some sort of a turnaround of the market because it had come down quite aggressively. So let's wait and see if we will get the market trending. If it does, then at least we could see the market continue to make proper higher highs and higher lows. So moving on into the next one, this is the US 30 or the Dow Jones. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. Yesterday, the big boys were nowhere to be seen. So you can see the three areas Mitch had pointed out. We're expecting a pullback. That didn't happen. The market was to also maybe break above this region to the upside, and maybe we could have gotten some buys. That also didn't happen. You can see that the market was just fooling around within this particular region right here. And that's exactly where we still are moving into today. So we will be waiting to see if we can get a breach of this region to the upside, and hopefully the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside on the pullback. We could get a very, very good buy. But right now, I would best advise you to actually end up waiting. Right now, we also do have sellers who are here. We're not quite sure what they could do. Maybe the buyers might need better prices, and you could easily find the market still coming back in within this region before we actually get some very, very good buying opportunities. You can see that the levels within here, the buyers are attempting to push up higher, but the sellers are actually not letting them through. So if the pullback happens, it might be going for better prices than this, and that could squarely put price back within this particular region right here. So we'll be waiting to see what happens on this one, but also watch out for the region at the bottom. There's a possibility price can also come back in within there. It's a slim chance it might, but at least we do know that even if price goes back in all the way to within that region, we will still be watching out to see whether we can get buying opportunities. So watch out for those two scenarios right there. And of course, no matter what you do, always make sure that you do watch out for your risk. So moving on into the next one, which is silver. So for silver, this one has been also in a funny state. So we'll start off by what happened yesterday. So yesterday, you can't see that these are the three areas that had been pointed out. In the morning, price was somewhere here. And we're expecting maybe to get the market coming back in within this region right here, maybe get a sign, the big boys showing up. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So you can see that the market continued to rally up higher. There was this level that Mitch had pointed out, and also this region right here that we're expecting maybe to get the market potentially attempting to go to the upside. Maybe if the big sellers did actually end up showing up, then we could have potentially looked for the selling opportunities. But unfortunately, that did not happen. So for this one, in the morning when we're looking at the charts, I think we might need to end up switching this one. Price was somewhere here. So what we're expecting was to actually wait and see if we could get price coming back in within this region and see what type of reaction we could get within that particular region. And considering the fact that the market seems to actually be bouncing off this region. Remember, the one thing we always say is after a breach, we always need to see whether we can get the market actually holding to the upside of a particular region. So that has definitely proved itself. So you can see that the market broke to the upside, pulled back in, and once again, it's pulled back in within this particular region, right? And definitely seems to be holding to the upside. So I guess we can do some adjustments. The bars seem to be pushing up of that particular region right there. Seems to be a mid-level, somewhere within this area right here, which seems like some sort of an SNR. You can see that even the last time when price broke the upside, came back in, bounced off this region right here. So I guess there's a possibility price could still be coming back in somewhere within this particular region right here. So watch out for that. But also does seem like just higher up, higher than this level right here, definitely seems like a region where we could definitely run into some sellers who could definitely give us some sort of issues. So for this one, make sure that you do take note. We're not going to be looking for selling opportunities. The buys or the buyers could definitely confirm that they're definitely holding above here. This is what we wanted to see. It's just that it's happened at a very weird time. Normally, you would expect such kind of things to happen maybe during the London session open or during the US session. But I guess the Frankfurt big boys are definitely interested. So let's wait and see what happens on this one. So watch out for that. But also the Asian big boys also seem to be interested to some extent. So right now for this one, make sure that you do take note. We're definitely going to be trying to see whether we can get buying opportunities. So we've definitely switched that up. So make sure that you do take note of that. So let's see what happens. Of course, remember, for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the bars should be to look for buying opportunities. In case the market comes down, breaks beneath that region to the downside, we could look for sells. But also remember, if you're going to be looking for selling opportunities, the sales that you're going to be looking for are counters. So don't be overly confident with them. So just make sure that you also have that at the back of your mind. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold, for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. And for as long as we're holding beneath here, the bars should be to look for sells. So you can't see the levels that Mitch had pointed out. Also quite a number of additional levels within here. We're expecting maybe to get the market reacting off from. You can see that the market went up, came back in within here, attempted to come down. The bars within this region, or somewhere within this area reacted. Price went up higher, price came down. And you can see that somewhere within this area right here, price seems to be fooling around. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same. So let's see what happens. We're back in within this region here. So we'll be waiting to see what does end up happening within that area. But based on the way things are looking, it seems that the bars are quite strong. And you can see that they've come in quite aggressively. So it's either they slow down within this area, they might attempt to go up higher, the sellers might shut them down. If the market actually holds within this particular region, we could get the market coming back in within this area right here. So watch out for that. But also watch out for this region at the top right here. You could easily also find that the market could come in somewhere within this area. And I mean, if we do get the big sellers showing up within this area right here, then we could definitely look for sell. But if it does break to the upside of this particular region and actually hold above that region, just like what we've seen on silver, then at that point in time, we can start to jump in on our buying opportunities more confidently, which means that even if you're going to be getting some buys here, because I know that some of you could possibly get some buys, just be well aware that the buys are counters. It's not a guarantee that price has to get all the way back to within there. The big boys can easily get in on your way at any given point in time without any warning. So that's usually the problem with counters. But at least if you do factor in your risk, like I always tell guys, if you're going to be jumping in on counters, maybe half the risk what you would be jumping in on a trade that's in line, with a trade that's in line with the trend or the flow of the market. So hopefully you've taken note of that, and hopefully you've taken note of that update that we've just done on silver. So I guess we can end up looking at the chat box to see if there are any questions. So I see AI music. So I guess that's Tony. Good to see you here. You're saying, where can I send my screenshots? We do have a number on the video description, but I can also see that the team also put it there for you. So feel free to send them in to us via WhatsApp. I see Jimmy James. Good to see you as well. You're saying, morning. Do you plot the 3 levels on the H1 or on the 15-minute time frame? These are actually 1 hour levels, and you can see that even for silver, even when I just plotted it right now, I just went up to the 1 hour time frame because we're factoring in the story on the 1 hour time frame. The reason why we go down to the 15-minute time frame is because we also want to see a bit more detail in terms of what happens, especially within the sessions. Because if you're plotting these levels on the 1 hour time frame, which is good, but the market comes down within here, you might actually be late in terms of getting an entry, because before the big boys show up on the 1 hour time frame, they have already showed up on the 15-minute time frame. So just to get that extra bit of detail, that's the reason why we end up going down to the 15-minute time frame. But also we can't fine-tune levels based on the 15-minute time frame, but at least we derive them off the higher time frame. So the 1 hour time frame gives us the proper support and resistance areas. We can fine-tune them on the 15-minute time frame and also trade on the 15-minute time frame. So I hope that does end up answering your question, Jimmy James. And you're also asking, how far back on the chart do you look in order to spot these major levels? Well, based on what you can see on your screen, you don't really need to zoom all the way back or go back in time, all the way back till 1971. Till when FX started. So it's just based on what you can see on your charts. So you can see, like, for example, if I even just go on this one, if you look at the levels that I've just plotted, if you look at what's happened, and I think I also did end up touching on that when I plotted this, you can generally see that the market has tapped within these regions in the recent past. So unless maybe you're going to be plotting a level that's maybe high up and you just need to go far back to see what has happened, you'll just have to end up going as far back as the last time when price was there. Price has never been there. Like for gold, some of those highs that the market was actually hitting, those are areas that the market has never been before. So you have to actually end up plotting them as the market is moving. But generally, you don't really need to go too far back. Generally, just go as far back as you can get enough information as you need. If you can't get enough information here, because also on some of the currency pairs, we did see that I think the yens and also some of the Swiss franc pairs earlier and later last year, where you found that most of them were actually breaking levels beneath, and you find that the last time that the prices were there were during the COVID times. If that's how far back you need to go to really figure out what's going to happen or what happened the previous time when price was there, then that's as far back as you need to go. But generally, most currency pairs, and you generally don't need to really go too far back. So just enough information you will end up getting based on just looking at what happened the recent past. So hopefully that does end up answering your question. So I see you're also asking one last question on this topic also. Do you apply the concepts of buyers and sellers zones when plotting? Definitely. So you can see, like, even for this one, we do have this area right here, and this one is for gold. You can generally see that there was a big push to the downside of that region coming down. So we generally know that there are definitely some sellers who are holding within there, and definitely this is a seller zone coming in. So that's an interesting point that you're bringing in right there. You can generally see that the buyers are also sitting somewhere within here. And you can see that the buyers have actually given issues off this area. So we know that there are buyers who are sitting here. So buyers down here, sellers down up within this region, and definitely a mid area somewhere within this particular region. So you definitely also have to factor that in. Even going back to silver, for example, even on this one, I've just plotted out these levels right now. You can see that there was a big push to the upside of this region right here. So you definitely know that the buyers who are pushing up are somewhere within this region, and that coincides with this region right here. You can see that even when the market came down, tapped back in within there, there was some sort of a reaction. You can see that even in the past, when you go back, you can see that the buyers have actually reacted off that area. So yeah, definitely you will need to end up also factoring that in. Some people call them supply and demand zones, buyers and seller zones. As long as you get the concept, you should be fine. So thank you so much for that, Jimmy James, and I hope that answers your question. Remember, guys, if you do need more information in terms of how to trade, you definitely can also end up visiting our website, www.afriforex.com. If you go to the Academy section, you'll definitely end up finding all the information that you need based on whichever level of trading you want to get high up until, and also some Afriforex combo offers, depending on if you want to end up acquiring quite a number of courses. You also can't get them individually. That's also perfectly fine. So you also can't get that information right here. For the guys who are beginners, we do have the free beginner course. So this one doesn't really cost you anything. So feel free to jump in on it, start getting your feet wet. Then as you continue moving along, if you definitely need more information, even as you come in for the daily analysis, definitely you will be somewhere. So I guess that's pretty much it from me and from us. Not really seeing anything more in the chat box or anything pending. Want to thank you guys so much for making the time to be here with us. We definitely do not take your time for granted. I know you're busy people. Hopefully you do end up having a wonderful day on the charts and in everything else that you're going to be doing today. And hopefully we will see you guys tomorrow morning during the daily analysis session at 9 a.m. in the morning. So also remember to give us a like and a subscribe. That does also end up helping out our channel. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. So with that, happy trading. May the peeps be with you. God bless. Happy trading.